every day. So please subscribe to your local paper. And are you hearing me all right? And are you seeing the slides okay? Very good. Thank you. So here's Sonoma West Sebastopol paper. So I have about 20 minutes. I'll go as fast as I can, barreling along. If we have time, I'll take questions at the end, or I can come back at another meeting since I was so late. I think the first thing I should do is make it clear that this is not a talk about PG&E, even though I know the PG&E is undermined. And at the end, I can talk a little bit about PG&E and its confusing future if we have time for that. But this talks mainly about Sonoma Clean Power and its big impact on all of us. So what's the difference between Sonoma Clean Power and PG&E? Sonoma Clean Power buys power from power plants and it sells that power to you. And then PG&E delivers it to you and sends you the bill. That's unless you've officially opted out of doing business with Sonoma Clean Power. Most of us, 87% of us in Sonoma County, accepted Sonoma Clean Power as the company that buys our electricity, and that includes me. On your bill, you can see current PG&E electric rate charges and Sonoma Clean Power electric generation charges. Is this showing up okay, guys, on your screens? Okay.
Yes, it's looking.
Buy our power until Sonoma Clean Power was started by the county and our cities in 2014. The reason they started Sonoma Clean Power was to save the planet. Our government leaders felt the electricity that PG&E was buying for us wasn't green enough. So 5 years ago, they created Sonoma Clean Power to compete with PG&E and buy greener power for us and to take the profits that used to go to PG&E shareholders and use them for green energy projects instead. But first, let me give you a little background. Sonoma Clean Power is a new kind of government agency called a Community Choice Aggregation Agency, or CCA. It's called that because communities join together to aggregate or combine their electricity purchases. Marin County started the first CCA in California in 2010. That was Marin Clean Energy. And 4 years later, Sonoma Clean Power was second. Since then, the CCA industry has exploded in California. Now we have 20 CCAs operating throughout the state, and communities are considering a dozen more. The basic idea is that letting lots of competitors buy our power will bring us lower rates and greener energy. Whoops, sorry, went too fast. Why does this matter? Why should you care? Because California is conducting a huge experiment with its power markets, and you have a lot on the line. So here's what I hope to accomplish in my 20 minutes. It's simple. I just want to make you aware of some key issues so you can be an informed consumer. Bringing competition to our utilities is called energy deregulation. It's not new. We have been here before. Almost 20 years ago, back in 2000, when I was a business reporter for the Press Democrat, that's not really the Press Democrat, but it's close. One day I was sitting in the newsroom over in Santa Rosa with a law like that. And when suddenly we got word to expect rolling blackouts in some PG&E territories because power plants weren't delivering enough power to the grid. What? Power plants weren't delivering enough power to the grid? What was that all about? The problem, it turned out, was energy deregulation, in which California had launched 2 years earlier. The plan had been to let other power companies compete with our utilities, and that competition was going to drive down rates. And since rates were sure to go down, utilities would not be allowed to buy power with long-term contracts. Instead, they had to buy power short-term, even daily, so they'd be able to grab the low prices that were sure to be coming and pass those savings along to ratepayers. Except that the cost of electricity didn't fall. Instead, it soared off the charts. There were many complicated reasons for that, but the most famous was that Enron and others figured out ways to game the system. To vastly oversimplify this, Enron withheld power until prices shot up because of the scarcity, and then it sold its power at those high prices. At the end of the year, California utilities were paying $1,400 per megawatt hour for power that a year earlier had cost $45. Under deregulation, utilities weren't allowed to pass all those costs along to ratepayers. So they quickly ran out of cash. Soon the state was having to spend billions of dollars to buy electricity for all of us. In April 2001, PG&E filed bankruptcy. Our electricity market was in shambles. And I was one of the Press Democrat reporters covering that incredible story. At the same time, way back then, a group of people led by Anne Hancock in Grayton were worried about global warming. And eventually their work led to the launch of Sonoma Clean Power. On May the 1st, 2014, in a room where our County Board of Supervisors usually meets in Santa Rosa, officials started Sonoma Clean Power by throwing the switch on a power board that Sonoma Clean Power CEO Jeff Cyphers had built in his backyard shop to save money. Outside, Hancock supporters gathered with an Anne Hancock sign showing the journey to that joyous moment. And now, 5 years later, where are we? First, I'll make a few comments about Sonoma Clean Power and then some thoughts on how California's second round of energy deregulation is going. Sonoma Clean Power rents offices in Santa Rosa, up there on the top floor of that tall building just south of Courthouse Square, Old Courthouse Square. The CEO, Jeff Cyphers, is an interesting guy. His degrees are in applied physics and energy engineering. He makes more than $3,000 a year, but he lives with his wife in an 800 square foot home in a co-housing community in Cotati. He's smart, he's approachable, and he knows more about our electricity markets than anyone I know. Cyphers works with three groups of people. First, his staff. He now has about 23 employees. That's a little different than PG&E, which has about more than 700 employees in Sonoma County alone. Cyphers works for a board of directors. It's made up of someone to represent Sonoma County, Mendocino County, which joined 2 years ago, and each of the 11 member cities. Most of these people are politicians. Sebastopol is currently represented by your mayor, Patrick Slater. They know very little about running an energy company, and they come and go a lot, but they're all deeply committed to turning the tide on the climate crisis. And finally, Cyphers has a community advisory committee. Most of these people, all volunteers, have deep experience with energy, some spending their lives in that field. You can volunteer to be on that committee. Both the board and the community advisory committee meet about once a month in Sonoma Clean Power's conference room. The meetings are public. If you go, you will learn a lot. So has Sonoma Clean Power made our energy greener than we were getting from PG&E? Yes. In 2005, Sonoma County and its cities set a 10-year goal to reduce our annual greenhouse gas emissions 1.6 million tons below our 2007 peak. And Sonoma Clean Power has saved us 300,000 tons by buying electricity that is cleaner than PG&E buys. That's a lot. Check out this chart that Anne Hancock's team publishes every few years. You can see the goal. It's the black line in the blue section, Sonoma County 2015 target. That's 1.6 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions lower than our peak in 2007. And you can see how electricity emissions, the yellow part, declined between 2014, when Sonoma Clean Power began, and 2016 of this chart. Before we go further, though, let's just be clear. When Sonoma Clean Power buys green power for us, we probably don't actually get it. Electricity flows randomly on the grid. So when we're paying for green energy, we're not paying to get green energy. We're paying power plants to make green energy rather than fossil fuel. And that's how we reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In addition to buying cleaner energy, Sonoma Clean Power also has projects to promote clean energy. I want to mention a couple that show how hard it is to turn the tide on the climate crisis. Over 3 years, Sonoma Clean Power spent $2.8 million to help people buy 1,262 electric vehicles, which eliminated 7,104 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, or about 5 tons per car. That sounds good, but let's put that in context. What's our goal? To eliminate 1.6 million tons. The second project is to encourage rooftop solar. Sonoma Clean Power pays more than PG&E does to homeowners who have solar panels and sometimes sell their excess power to the grid. Last year, the agency paid $862,000 to 2,027 customers. But Cyphers has phased out this project because California now has too much solar, sometimes midday. Sometimes we have to pay neighboring states to take it. Besides, rooftop solar only saves about 5 tons of emissions per house. And remember, we need to save 1.6 million tons. Sonoma Clean Power has lots of other projects, including opening a store on 4th Street in Santa Rosa later this year. You can read about them in my special section on the Sonoma West Times and News website. Financially, Sonoma Clean Power is doing well for now. Only 6 years old. Last year, it had $175 million in annual revenue and about $15 million in profits, and it has no debt. Its income is from ratepayers. It doesn't get any money from taxpayers. $175 million in annual revenue is a little different than PG&E, which has annual revenue of about $17 billion, but still, it's a lot. And as hoped, Sonoma Clean Power has lowered our rates, though that won't last. Sonoma Clean Power has a huge incentive to keep its rates lower than PG&E because its customers can go back to PG&E anytime they want to. Whoa, that would be a big deal, right? On this chart, check out the last line. At Sonoma Clean Power today, the typical resident buys Clean Start and saves $2.25 a month compared to PG&E. Cypher says his customers have saved more than $70 million in the first 5 years of the company. Needless to say, that's a huge benefit to this community and to our economy. Looking at this chart, you'll see that Clean Start is 49% renewable. You can see Sonoma Clean Power also sells a product called Evergreen, which is 100% renewable and local. It costs about $12 a month more than Clean Start for a typical home. Evergreen power comes from geothermal at the geysers just northeast of here and from local solar projects. But of Sonoma Clean Power's 224 plus accounts, fewer than 1% are evergreen. That's a pretty sobering number for people who worry about global warming. Sonoma Clean Power's rates could be even lower for a couple of reasons. For one thing, it raises its rates when PG&E does, keeping them below PG&E but not too far below so that it has profits to spend on green energy projects. To some people, that's wrong. They say electricity bills should not be inflated to pay for green energy projects. Another reason that Sonoma Clean Power rates could be lower is that its customers have to pay PG&E a monthly exit fee that lasts 4 years. That's because when they were utility customers, the utility bought power for them, and when they left the utility, it was stuck with years of contracts for power it will no longer need. So departing customers have to cover that cost. Let's take a look at these rates again. In the left column, the first item is the generation rate. That's what you will pay for electricity. The second item is the PG&E delivery rate. But now let's look at this weird third item. That's the exit fee that all community choice customers have to pay their former utility. Looking at these rates, a typical Sonoma Clean Power residential customer saves $2.25 a month compared to PG&E. But without the exit fee, that same customer would save $13.18. That's a big difference. But now utilities are raising the exit fee even higher with permission from the California Public Utilities Commission. And Cypher says soon Sonoma Clean Power rates will go higher, up to 5% higher than PG&E. If that happens, will you go back to PG&E? So that's a quick review of Sonoma Clean Power. My special section has lots more detail and context, but now let's take a quick look at how California's second round of energy deregulation is going. And the answer there is not good. We have two key regulators. The state legislatures, they write the laws, duh, and the California Public Utilities Commission, or PUC. They enforce the laws. There are 5 commissioners appointed by the governor. They meet regularly at their headquarters in San Francisco. Anyone who wants to operate in the California energy markets, and that includes Sonoma Clean Power, has to file reports with them. Under state law, the commission controls utilities, including the rates they charge. And it generally oversees community choice agencies, but it doesn't control what they do. We're going to see that CCAs, including Sonoma Clean Power, have lots of problems with the PUC. When we deregulated energy last time, Sacramento legislators had a plan. It was a terrible plan, but it was a plan. This time we have no plan. It's just evolving as more and more communities start their own community choice agency. Stunned by this fragmentation, the PUC fears losing control. Dramatic disputes have broken out between the old grid, that is the state's 3 giant utilities, and their regulator, the politically appointed Public Utilities Commission, and the new grid with its 20 community choice agencies, soon to be more, and their locally elected boards of directors. The PUC has said in many hearings and reports that it is afraid community choice agencies cannot be relied on to meet the state's renewable energy goals or to procure enough power to ensure the state's needs are met every second of every day. Meanwhile, the utilities have lost so many power buying customers to CCAs that they have stopped buying power. That doesn't hurt them financially because state law doesn't let them make a profit on selling electricity, only on delivering it. But it puts the task of buying power for California squarely on the shoulders of 20 inexperienced but committed California community choice agencies. And when they filed their most recent report with the PUC on their power buying plans, the commission was appalled. For example, community choice agencies plan to buy carbon-free power, but not natural gas, which the PUC said is needed for reliability. An annoyed commission said it's going to tell community choice agencies what to buy and when to buy it. And it will create a central buyer to make sure the state has what it needs and send the bill to the community choice agencies. And in fact, yeah, it just voted last week to do that, made a final decision. This has infuriated CCAs, and they have formed a lobbying group, Cal CCA, based in Concord, to fight for their rights with state legislators. Cyphers is president of that group. Here are some of the questions raised by this round of deregulation.
Mary, could I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes, indeed.
We're getting really close to the end here, so I just wanted to give you a little 2-minute warning.
Thank you very much. So let's just look at some of these questions. How much business can utilities lose to CCAs and still be the state's power providers of last resort? All 3 California utilities have told regulators they no longer want that job. But then what happens if community choice agency fails? Where do those CCA customers go to get electricity? What obligation will community choice agencies have to prop up the grid in the event of a collapse like 2001? Who makes sure the contracts signed by 20 uncoordinated buyers meet the state's needs? One frustrated state official said, it used to be that the state could just tell utilities to do it. And equally frustrated CCAs would probably reply, and utilities did a lousy job. So I'll close. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you, I want to show you some quotes from people on different sides of this argument that gives you an idea of how raw this battle is becoming. And give you a moment to look at that. And then I'm going to click through to, I'll skip these points and end with this one. So this is the energy use that we have in the world today, and renewables are the tiny orange line at near the top. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, let me get to, here we go. Get my screen back up. And number 10, who did we have to join today?
That was Michael Cook. That was Michael Cook.
Okay, so Michael Cook, I'll send you your lotto, and Scott, I just got yours. I'll send you yours too, and we will be good with that. And here we go. Current slide, back this way. And Judy, do you have a way clean joke? Gotta unmute.
Judy had to leave.
Okay, Judy had to leave. We'll skip the joke. Is it safe to come out yet? Says Beetle Bailey. Well, we won, says the cockroaches.
Cockroaches with stars on them.
I know. Please use caution, everybody. Stay safe. COVID-19 and cockroaches are in the same category. Really, really, really hard to get under control. And Joe had to go. He had to be with his kids. So Rod, are you here to sing us out? Or are we going to do it our own way?
Chaos.
Well,
That's just so scary.
In our heads.
Happy trails.
Till we meet again. Okay, this is pathetic. Again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mary. People can contact you if you have questions.
Thank you for having me.
There we go. All right, I am going to turn everybody off. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Bye.
And stop the share. Bye.